Yeah, sure. So my name is Marie. I'm 28 years old, and I'm from Ivory Coast.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
I've been living in Italy since I was 10 years old, basically in Parma. And then I went to Bologna to start studying foreign languages and literatures, and recently I've graduated. And in the same period, principally in 2017, I started working with an association on the territory of Bologna. And it's an association who work with migrants, and it's a migrant-led organization who work with migrants to help them orientate themselves on the territory of Bologna. And since that moment, I still continue to work with them.
That's very interesting. Now, would you like to tell me, you were born actually in Ivory Coast, or you were born somewhere before you came to Italy? Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I was born actually in Ivory Coast. I stayed there until 10 years old, and then I came in Italy.
Is there anything that you remember of Ivory Coast because you live out to 10 years there?
Yeah, actually, I remember everything, the food, the music, the people. I have also parents there. I have my uncle and a lot of cousins that still live there, and we are in contact with them. And also, recently, I knew more about the history of my dad because I lost my dad 2 years ago.
Oh, sorry about
Um,
that, dear. Sorry about that.
Thank you. And that permits me also to know more about his story, because usually it's not someone who likes to talk a lot. So when he passed, we just discovered a lot of things we didn't knew about, and it was interesting.
Is it something that you can share with us? Is it educating? Is it interesting? Yes, say anything about that. What did you
Uh,
find?
that I have a lot of brothers and sisters. Because I have a big sister. She's 18 years older than me. And then after the death of my dad, we discovered that we have other three brothers and other four sisters.
So your father was very hardworking.
Yeah, a lot.
All right, that's good. That's good. So now you have the family is now bigger now, which means the community is bigger for you now. That is also an opportunity, no?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to know more about the country, to know more about my history and my family. So yeah, that's nice actually. And they're really welcoming, so.
That's lovely.
Mhm.
But for somebody who don't even know about Ivory Coast, because you live out to 10 years there, what would you want the person to know? Because here we are proud of where we are coming from
Yeah.
in a special way.
In fact, my thesis, like the thesis I made to finish the university, was also on Ivory Coast. That was really interesting. For someone who doesn't know Ivory Coast, I will tell them that it's a country who became independent in the 1960s, and French is the common language that we talk. But actually, there are 70 ethnicities present in the territory. And what is nice is that from the 1970s until now, the Ivorians created a sort of pidgin, um, or Creole, as we can say, that is a mix of French and also the local languages, so they can have the power to reappropriate themselves of the local languages. Also, because during the colonialism, um, the France usually try to make the Ivorian people feel like the common language, the local language, wasn't really important. Also because it wasn't written and there was nothing to learn it in a written way. And it's nice because everything started from the young people of the 70s who were in the university, and now it can be considered as a new language studied by the university with phonetic, all the different bases that characterize the language. Another important aspect is that we have a cathedral. I don't know exactly the term in English, but
A cathedral?
it's not exactly a cathedral, but the exact copy of the Basilica of San Pietro that
Okay,
is
okay.
present in Italy. And we have it also in the capital of Ivory Coast, that is Yamoussoukro. And it's really important for us because it was a way for those who weren't able to go to Rome to see the Basilica. It was an important way to feel more connected to God, and so that Christians could have done a pilgrimage to go directly there. And another important thing is the music, also the food. They're usually Ivorian people are really welcoming. They are every time present to help people. And also, last thing is that people don't know about in Ivory Coast is that actually is a country where all the people in there are actually migrants, because there's only one ethnic group that is from Ivory Coast, and the group is the Bete. But actually, all the different ethnic groups are coming from different parts of Africa. So Ivory Coast actually is a country built by migrants.
All right, that is very important. So that is where we have started the conversation today. Ivory Coast is a country that is built by migrants. And of course, many countries in the world, no, all the countries of the world are built by migrants. Because somewhere, wherever you might find yourself today, you are coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
That is the case. That is the history of humanity. Look at the United States, for example. You can talk of England. You can talk of even Italy itself, where we both are just now. You can talk of France. You can talk of Germany. We are all coming from somewhere. It just happened that someone came before the other who are new here. Even
Yeah.
those who are before also came from somewhere. So that is I find that to be very interesting. So tell me about this project that you are working on with refugee, this association. How did it start?
Okay, actually, it started. It's really interesting to explain. So it started in 2017. Actually, I started to work with the association as an intern, as well as many of other friends that I have. We started to work there, and at that moment, we were developing a project that was called ESOP. That means European Structural Orientation Program for Migrants. The idea was to create a 6-month program where we help them to learn more about the Italian language, civil education, and to know more also about what they could have done based on the laws, on the policy of migration, and also based on their status, so they could have access to work and also other kind of training and apprenticeship. And the idea was that at the end, for those who have learned also German, the idea was to find a voluntary service to permit them to go to Germany to to start a voluntary work, so that they could have come back to Italy and start a new better life, or implement the life here. But this was possible also because the partner we were doing the project with is called my Immigrazione Thailandia, and it's a German partner that it's in Witten, in the north west of Germany. And when we started the project, we started to find it difficult to bring migrants, in particular refugees, to Germany, Also because most of them didn't have have yet the permit of stay, the one of for the international protection. So we decided to change the program and focus it more on the territory of Bologna, so that they could have been more, how can I say that, maybe integrate is not the right word, but the idea is that we wanted them to be to feel part of the community, to start to be an active citizen, and help the local community to ameliorate and improve Bologna. And this should have started with like knowing the different places of the services offered by the municipality. Also, because if you know well your city, you have the possibility to feel that you are at home. Um, so after two other cycles, so it was actually for 1 year and 6 months. uh, our partner, Migrazioni Thailand, decided to change completely the project and to create Move Europe. And Move Europe is in particular for those people who want to travel, but they don't have the power to do it, or they don't even have the information, or they don't even know where to start.
Information is everything, because if you don't know how to find your way around, it can be really complicated. So this first project that you were working on, what has happened to that project at the moment?
So now actually the project grew a lot, because first we started this partnership with Migrazioni Thailand in Germany and Universo, the association I am working with in Bologna. And since it's like 2 years now that we are working also with different organizations all around Europe, in France, in Greece, Spain, also Belgium, because we wanted to want the project to grow more, and so also to reach more migrants and refugees, so that they are aware of this opportunity. Until now, we have created a mobility guide to inform also youth workers and other social actors who are working with migrants and refugees, to know more about the migration policies and the opportunity they might have uh, based on their status, their legal status. And also, we have created, how can I say, a toolkit using non-formal education tools to explain to migrants and refugees how Move Europe works. So from the phase of registration, when the migrants arrive, to ask to participate. Usually we do a meeting, an interview, to understand what are their needs, what they really want to do, how they want to implement their objectives and reach them. And also, we try to explain to them what could be the main difficulties, because most of the time, when someone has an objective or desire they want to reach, they most of the time don't think about what can be the what sorry for that, what could be the challenges, the main challenges. So we try to explain to them what could be sorry, what are the main challenges, and then based on that, if they really want to continue with us, we start the legal procedure, starting with the visa, also trying to see if they need a language course, so they can learn the language of the country where they're going. So if it's French and they don't speak French, they have to learn French. Or if it's Germany, for sure they need to learn German also, because when they're going there, they will have German class that they have to do to improve their German. Um, and also, we try to contact companies that are on the territory, um, where they can go to do what they really want to do. So every research we made is based on the capacities and skills of the migrant and refugees, so that they don't do random stuff that are not useful, but we try to focus on what is really important for them and what can really help them to improve these skills and also improve the opportunity they could have in the job market. Now also we are trying also to create mobility hubs around Europe. For now we have one in Italy, also in Rome, and we are trying to create another one in Bologna, because until now only Universo, the association I'm working with, is the only organization who give the information in Bologna. And we have different orders in Germany. For example, we have one in Leipzig, and there should be also another one in France. And last thing is that we are also doing in this moment a training program for young people. In particular, at the end of the project, the people that have been selected will become mentor for refugees, so they can help them directly and assist them from the start to the finish of the program. And until now, for example, in July, at the beginning of July, we will host we will host six participants for job shadowing, so they will know more about the how can I say that? They will know more about the host, how migrant and refugees are hosted in Bologna, how they can assist the migrant and refugees in this project, and also how they can help with the skills migrants. And we want them also not to only teach something to someone else, but also to learn from the migrants and refugees, because most of the time the idea is to create like a peer-to-peer project where we learn from each other. And in the different activities I made in the past, it was refugees and migrants who teach a lot to the social operators or social workers than the opposite.
In this case, now you are a social worker. How do you describe your profile in this job that you do?
Okay. So it's quite complicated, because usually when I have to define myself, I don't find the right word. I usually define myself as a voluntary worker, because when I started to work with the association I'm with, the idea was to use my experience as a migrant myself to help others, because I knew that it was really difficult for me and my mom, for example, to have access to information. Usually, when you go to the Italian offices, most of the time they treat you like you're not able to speak the language, you're not able to understand what is written on the paper, and they don't give you all the necessary information, so you have to search it yourself. And when I started, the idea was to help them to know everything possible, also explaining them what they have to do when they have to go to the questura, what they have to do when they have to fill a simple paper. They don't have to miss any possible information, because otherwise they need to restart from the beginning. But now in the association I'm working with, my main role is they give me is like wait, I need to translate it. Okay, so I'm responsible of the community integration program. That means that actually I'm doing quite a lot. This means like I need to help the interns and voluntary to have more access to our team. So they have the training at the beginning, then they know how to work at the help desk that we have, to help migrants and refugees, but also not to feel too much overpower, or they don't like put too many emotions, like they are not too sensitive, because most of the time it happens that we have maybe interns that start working with us, but they also feel sorry because they feel powerless, because they can't do a lot. So we try to make them understand that even if they think they don't have any skills to help them, actually they have it. And also it's an important opportunity to work with us, also because Universo is like a place where you can like learn a lot. Usually when you go to university, you just like learn things theoretically. In Universo, we gave you the opportunity to start to learn everything from, how can I say that? To learn everything from every point of view. For example, I started as an intern, and when I started at the beginning, I was teaching Italian. And then a few months later, they just told me, now you're going to work as a coordinator for this project that we are doing that is called ASOP, and you need to coordinate everyone. And I never done that before, but it was like a challenge for me to learn something. They try to assist me as much as possible, and then they give me the whole space to express myself, to create activities, workshops, and it was really useful. Also, the role that I have means also that I need to help when we have, for example, local calls or international calls, also because we collaborate with an association in Cameroon that is called White Horizonte, and different associations around Europe when, for example, we participated to the Erasmus calls. Um, and yeah, basically that. There's a lot of things to say, but these are the most important.
Thank you so much, Mary. Now, what type of category of immigrants actually gets to you that you work with? Are they immigrants predominantly coming from Africa? I don't know, coming via the Lampedusa, or those coming also from the Eastern European country? I don't know, from Romania, Albania. It could, I don't know. So tell me, which are the type of immigrants that are getting to you?
Okay, so a great percentage actually coming from western of Africa, also because they are in center of accommodation, and they are the ones that arrived from 2011 until 2019 from Lampedusa. Then we have a small portion that comes from East Asia, that means Pakistan, Iran, but also we have people from Albania, but a small category. But the most of them actually comes from West Africa. So the main languages that we use usually are French and English.
All right, thank you for that. Um,
Yeah.
Now, what kind of challenges do you see these people have that are coming to you? Let's say in this case, now let's look at those coming from West Africa in this situation.
Okay, so at the beginning, when someone come to our association, is maybe to have more information on how to do a CV and how to search for a job. And then when we start to talk with them, we start to understand that maybe it's someone that usually doesn't have the possibility to communicate with the local community. They just fix in their community and don't improve the language. So they only speak maybe in English or only in French. And then most of the time they also there are people who really want to contribute to the community and do any possible job, but they don't know exactly where to start because maybe they don't have the contacts. So we try also to show them the city, also because maybe they're living in a certain part of the city. For example, women usually that are in the center of accommodation usually are outside of Bologna, never in the city center. So it's really difficult also to bring them in the city center. And also, when we try to do the activities, most of since the team is multicultural, because we have Erasmus students, but also students of the University of Bologna. And then we try to work with migrants and refugees. And when it happens, every time we need to communicate from one another, how to respect the space from each other, to respect the religion. And the things that I've noted also for on migrants and refugees of West Africa is that they're really eager to communicate their culture, also because for them it's really important that the local community know more about their countries instead of just putting stereotypes on them or judging them without really knowing them as a person.
Now, what about maybe their level of education? Do they, because now for you to learn another language, you need to learn your language, okay, speak it, but also able to interpret it and the rest of it. So, do they have an academic qualification? Maybe
Yeah.
not all of them, but what can you say in that area?
Okay, yes and no. Like when we try to do the Italian classes, we never do that on, for example, when you do Italian, usually when you do a language classes, you have to reach certain levels. So you have A1, A2, B1, B2. When we do our language classes, we never do this kind of levels because their levels are really below. Also because most of the time we work with people who are not able to write. They have never learned how to write, and they not even able to read. So we need to use all possible form of communication to teach them the language. Also because usually when you think about teaching to someone, you think about writing and also talking. Like you need to read something and you need to write something, but actually it's not like that. You need to like use all the necessary aspect to communicate with them. It can be through fun images, it can be also talking simply with them, using games, simple tools that makes them open more to you. And then they can maybe explain to you, I have this difficulty, I'm not able to write, I'm not able to read, and then we start also to do that. So the level is really low usually, and most of the time it's easy to communicate because maybe we have students who talk French or they who speak in French or they speak in English. And for me, for example, in the beginning when I started to teach Italian, it was easier for me because the people coming from my country were speaking French, but also it was a specific kind of French. It was a little bit different because we have this language I explained before. And also I started to learn a little bit, maybe not say them, but understand maybe when someone was speaking in different kind of English, not the normal, the British one we all know. But for example, in Nigeria, they have some specific words. And for example, for an Italian student, for Italian white student, it maybe can be difficult to understand what they are saying if they don't give the right, if they don't listen carefully. So yeah, I think during this period it's like a very important moment because you learn a lot also from the student if they open to you.
Open to you, yeah, that is a key word there. Uh, that led me to a question I was thinking before, which is collaboration on the part of the immigrant, no, that are now coming to Italy, that you are working with in this case. How much collaboration do you see on their part in order for them to be integrated into the system, or if you like, and to be able to be helped so that they can learn the language and go into the society, do whatever it is that is right, and also be able to find a job and do it well, of course, the skills and all of them put together. Help me.
I mean, from the city of Bologna, at least there's a lot of collaboration. Like they try to do different activities as possible to help them. But actually, the idea that is perceived not only in Bologna, in all the cities possible, is that um, usually the perception is that migrants and refugees coming from Africa needs to learn something, to do something, to work. Also, to have access, for example, to the citizenship, you need to have a work, a certain amount of money at the end of the month. You need to be well integrated. Other and it's not even enough because you need to respect a lot of how can I say rules. Otherwise, you're excluded from the society, and it's really difficult. Why recently I saw also with the crisis in Ukraine that actually for Ukrainian people who were Ukrainian, like white, it was easier for them to have access to education, to have access to work, because there was this path that permit them to easily have access to everything, while for migrants and refugees coming from West Africa, it's really difficult to have access to education, because also most of the time, for example, my mom was one of those migrants who arrived in the 90s, and for example, she was a nurse in the hospital, but a diploma wasn't recognized in Italy, so she has to completely change the job. And this is an episode that happened to a lot of other people who qualification wasn't even recognized, so they have to start from the very bottom. And it's not something also that happened to the West Africans, but also to other country of East Asia. And what I see is that usually people are treated like they don't know anything. They have to start from the very beginning, respect the Italian culture, respect every step possible, but no one is actually considering the culture they're coming from, or they didn't really want to learn a lot from the different cultures that you have to learn, and I don't care about the rest.
That is quite harsh, but that is the reality of the situation, no?
Mm-hmm.
In that before, of course, we were saying that there are some of these immigrants who maybe might not know how to read and write. Yes, there are these among the African immigrant in Europe and in Italy, but that is not the whole of it. There are
Exactly.
a lot of immigrants coming from Nigeria, from Ghana, and from other parts of West Africa or Africa who are already qualified. Some of them are graduate. Some of them have been lawyers. I've seen lawyers here who was already practicing at home, but for some reason is decided to migrate to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And getting here, he couldn't get anything. His paper, of course, cannot. I understand there are a lot of angles to it now, because it depends on what kind of treaty is signed between Nigeria and Italy, or okay, between African states and an Italian state. But it is hard when somebody who have gotten a lot of training in his life, all he can do in Italy is just to go and start washing toilet and things like that. If you ever even able to get that, so I don't know, what do people complain to you? These people that are coming in, because they are not empty heads. They have a lot
Yeah.
of they have a lot of qualification and experiences in life. What did they
Mm.
complain to you about?
Usually they complain about that they don't feel respected, they don't feel heard. Also, if you're migrant or refugee in Italy, you don't have any possibility to choose anything regarding your legal status, anything. You need to hope that someone will make the right decision for you so you can go on. And it's really difficult when you see people around you who are not making the right choice to help you improve your life. And usually, like, they have maybe difficulties when they go to the services and they are received in a bad manner, also because they just think, for example, that you're not going to be prepared. For example, for my whole life, there was it's not, people think it's a myth, but actually it's not a myth. But you have, for example, if you're black, you need to dress well also, because if you're not dressed well to go to only simply in the supermarket or to the municipality to do a document, they are not going to treat you well, or they're going to think that maybe you're selling drugs or you're doing a bad job, so you're not even able to speak or anything. Or, for example, a recent episode happened to me on the train where I was like, I made I don't know, I put the wrong mask, because now we have to put the FFP2 on the train, and I wasn't aware of that, so I put the chirurgical one. Then the controller came and he told me, in a bad manner and also yelling at me, you don't have the mask, so you need to go down. And I was like, okay, no problem. You're right. I'm wrong. I'm going down. But then I stopped myself when I was going down, because I just saw around me a lot of white Italian people with the same mask that I was having, and he didn't even told them, like, you need to go down to the train. So at a certain point, I was like, wait, can you please control also the other people on the train? Because you can come and yell at me and then you go away without saying a word. And then he was like, okay. Then he turned back and then he started talking in a very quiet way with the white counterparts, telling them, please, you need to put the mask, because I don't want problem. Also, the carabinieri will come, the police officers will come. And at a certain point also, he started to distribute masks to the people on the train so that they couldn't have a problem. But to me, he didn't say a thing, and it was another woman who gave me basically the right mask to put to stay on the train. So yeah, that's things. These things continually happen here in Italy, but also there's the thing that here in Italy, when you talk about the fact that racism exists, people usually say that's not real. Italy is not racist. We are really a welcoming country. Yes, that's true. Italy, it's very welcoming, but the people were really racist, and we need to admit it to start the conversation about it.
The racism itself, the misbehavior, the discrimination of people based on their skin color, that is an error. Of course, not everybody believes it's an error. Some other people think that it is right for them to do that. That's why I'm asking if there is anything that can be done about it to correct it.
The first most important thing is that for me, Italy need also to consider its colonial past. Also, because, for example, in the school they don't teach about the role of Italy in the colonialism. They just like say two words. Yeah, we went to Ethiopia and Eritrea, and there was this, and then nothing else. And then they pass to the next topic. But if they really, because there's a lot of documents, documentation that need to be, I think they need to discuss about it in a very serious way, about the colonial past, and when they start to accept the colonial past, then we can start also to say, okay, people here are racist. You can't say this thing. You can't do these things. We need to find a solution to solve problems. Otherwise, they will never start. Because also Italian people, for example, a lot of black people here in Italy, if you ask them, they will for sure tell you something about the colonial history of Italy. But there's a lot of Italian people who didn't even know the colonial past of Italy.
All right. That is selective history. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is very common across the board, particularly here in the West. They choose what they want to teach. Anyway,
Yes.
I'm not going to go much on that. Um, in terms of your association, um, Universal,
Mm-hmm.
where does the help that you render to people end? I mean, what kind of help do you render to people? Okay, you did make mention of the fact that you teach them languages and things like that. But what if this person don't have a place to stay? What if they don't have food to eat? Because the system doesn't recognize yet that they are human beings and they need these things. So I want to understand what kind of help do you give to people and where does it end?
Okay, actually, the help never ends. Because the idea is to help migrants and refugees to feel empowered so they don't have to count on people to continually help them. Um, when, for example, they don't know where to sleep or where to eat, we actually have the idea is that we have an help desk that can welcome people and give them more information on all the services that are present in Bologna, because most of the time people don't even know that some services exist, or there's a specific place where you need to go to explain the problem, and then they will give you, for example, a social assistant that will follow you and permit you to have a place where to sleep, where to stay, and also give you specific hours of places where you need to go to eat. So usually we try to give them all this information. If necessary, we put them in contact with the services so that they can be assessed correctly. And also with recently with the municipality of Bologna, we open and also with different association of Bologna, we opened the anti-discriminatory desk, also to receive complaints of people and to understand how we can really act in a more impactful way so that people will feel heard, or they will find the right way to solve the problems. For example, we started also, for example, when we receive any kind of complaint, we try to understand with the person if it's a real discrimination or not. For example, if, for example, they just go to the questura, they didn't receive the permit. Someone go to the questura, they don't receive the permit of stay, and they think maybe the police officer racism against me. We try to understand with them, did you send the right paper? What are the papers that you sent to the questura? What did they told you? What did they ask you, basically? And if, for example, one document was missing, and for this reason the questura didn't even calculated the person, we just explain to them it's not discrimination, it's just that you forget this paper, but we can help you actually to uh, trying to stay in contact with them, and giving you also lawyers that will help you to monitor the situation so that at the end you can have your permit of stay. But this doesn't help. This doesn't happen for anyone because any specific case actually is special. So you need to evaluate, analyze any case to understand how it's possible to help the person. And also, we talk about help, but the idea is not that we're giving an help. The idea is that we're giving a tool to someone to feel empowered so that next time you won't say, I am going to Universal to ask for an help, but I'm going to Universal to ask for specific information so that myself, I'm going to do that. And maybe if I'm able to do that in the future, I can come back as a volunteer to help someone else.
Now, how many people, or can you say, pass through your network, your association Is there, I don't know, any figure that you can think of your head?
There's a lot of people coming to Universal, also because based on the fact that we have a partnership with the University of Bologna, we have a lot of interns. They can make like an internship of 1 year, but also 6 months or 3 months. It depends on the amount of hours they have to finish with us. We have a voluntary people who come to the association to just help when they have time. For example, in the past years, we made like an activity that was distribution of food packages to the people who need it most in front of the association. And in that activity, a lot of people of Bologna were involved when they simply had time, like finding places to collect food, helping us to organize the packages and then to distribute them both in front of the association but also under the partici. How can you say partici in English? For example,
Oh,
Bologna
a
is
gate, as it were.
exactly
Okay,
like
okay.
it's like there's a lot of gates in Bologna, and during winter, and also summer less, but during winter specifically, there's a lot of homeless people who sleep there during the night, and we tried in the past to give them a lot of food packages so that they don't feel also because they are scared to lose their place. If they lose the place, someone else will take it, so we try to give them food. And also at a certain point in the winter, we gave them also, we try to collect clothes to give them so they wouldn't feel cold. And some of the time they open themselves to us, explaining their problems to the voluntary people coming. Other times they were just taking the food package, but they were always grateful with us and coming back to ask information and to know more about the different services. Also, since we have the different partnership with other association in Bologna, we usually organize activities. So we have mediators coming. We're in contact with lawyers so they every time know what is happening, and they can also give information to other people. We have social workers. Yeah, so there's a lot of people coming into Universal.
Oh, right, great. Now, to the immigrant refugees out there who maybe are listening to you, what do you want to tell them as a conclusion to this conversation of what they might do or what they should do so that they can have better experience here in Italy?
Um, hmm, hmm. Good question. Wait. I just want to tell them that they're not alone. Um, this is the most important for me because, like, when I arrived and also my mom arrived here in Italy, she was basically alone. She was feeling alone also, without having anyone to help her. I just want to tell them that they are not alone. There are people who can not maybe help them but give them the right direction to uh, feel so that they can feel more empowered. They don't have to feel like, how can I say, because in this moment I'm thinking in Italian. Wait, um, for me, like, the most important thing is that most time it can happen that they feel like it doesn't make sense to continue to stay here, or it doesn't make sense to continue to um, fight to have something when people are not respecting you. You are the one that can make you feel respected. So I want to tell them not to feel down, because there's always a solution, but they just need to believe in themselves, as people who have a culture, who has an important background, and they need to believe that they can reach their goals. And in Italy, even if it seems impossible, there's always a possibility, a way to reach your goal.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you too for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.